I'm going to model for you what metacognition looks like in your reading. So, when you're reading, real reading is a combination of the words in the book, the words you're reading, and the thinking that you're doing as you're reading. So, I'm going to use this story, the true story of the three little pigs, to model this for you. And I chose this book for two reasons. First, this book is easy for me to read. So it's a book that I've been reading since I was probably in about third grade. So I know this book is easy for me to read. So it's a good book for me to use to model for you how to do this. We're not going to read the entire book, but watch how I read the words and then I tell you about what I'm thinking. I'll stop as we go so that we can talk about what's happening and I can point out some things that I'm doing. So let's listen to a little bit of the story and get started.
The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by A. Wolf. Everybody knows the story of the three little pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story.
So if this was the first time I had read this book, hopefully I would be doing some thinking while I'm reading. So as soon as I heard the words, everybody knows the story of the three little pigs, immediately in my mind, I was thinking about what I know about the story of the three little pigs. Now, obviously, I know that story. Three pigs, they each build a house, the wolf comes and blows down their houses. But I know this story is going to be different. So I'm thinking about how is this story going to be different? Are there really going to be pigs in this story? Is it going to be something else? So right away, my mind is working. What I'm doing right now is called thinking aloud. So you don't normally do this when you read. You're not going to stop and talk out loud most of the time, but this is actually a really good strategy for you to use. You're allowed to stop and talk to yourself. Why did this character do this? What does this word mean? Why don't I know what's going on? If you think about those things out loud, make yourself stop and think. You're going to be much more aware of what's going on in your brain as you're reading.
I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs.
I love this picture. It's actually really gross because you can see like a mouse tail sticking out and rabbit ears, but it's such a great illustration for this book and for this page.
That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny.
Wait, way back in Once Upon a time? So this is like being told like a fairy tale because it's starting with Once Upon a Time, but there's like a little twist on it.
I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar.
Oh, his neighbor is going to be one of the pigs. Look over there in the distance. Doesn't that look like a house that's made out of either sticks or straw? I remember that from the original story.
Now, this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail.
So, as I'm reading this story, there's all kinds of thinking that's going on in my head. And I'm really paying attention to what I'm thinking. So, I'm noticing that there's all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, immediately I'm connecting this to the story that I know, where he says, little pig, let me come in. But he's making it seem like it was completely innocent, whereas the other story makes it seem like he's there to eat the pigs. So, we're going to stop there. You don't need to listen to me read this entire story. But this gave you an idea of what a think aloud looks like. I'm going to ask you to do some thinking aloud when you're working with me or in some of your further tasks. So, thinking aloud is just you reading the words and then talking out loud about what's going on in your head. That is using metacognition, being aware of what you're thinking and using it to become a better reader. So, you're going to be doing a little bit of that in just a minute. So, click stop and then move on to the next part of this task.